My name is Litman, and my partner Kuske and I have decided to look at the case of Kahler v. Kansas today. This began back in 2008 when Mr. Kahler and his wife began having a rocky marriage after Mr. Kahler learned of an extramarital affair his wife was having. After learning of this, Mr. Kahler began to become abusive towards his wife and estranged towards his two daughters, and over the course of that year and the following year, he began to see psychiatrists and psychologists, many of whom prescribed medications for Mr. Kahler to take. But unfortunately, he refused to take those medications. Over the course of that year, he began to become unhinged, and in November of 2009, on a trip to his wife's grandmother's house, he shot and killed not only his wife, but his two daughters and the grandmother as well. Mr. Kahler was arrested, charged, and sentenced to death for these 4 killings, but views from many experts on the trial say that Mr. Kahler was uncomprehensive of his actions during these killings, and therefore are pleading that he is insane. However, under Kansas law, a jury can't consider mental disease or defect as a defense to a crime, except insofar as it shows that the defendant lacked the mental state required as an element of the offense charged. So the main question we're asking ourselves here today is the state of Kansas allowed to abolish the insanity defense without violating both the 8th and 14th Amendments?
In many states around America, you do have the right to plead insanity in a courtroom. Yet in Kansas, you do not have this right, along with a few other states. This trial could determine on whether other states will choose to adopt the insanity policy or to deny it to other citizens. This trial could also bring around a solid definition to the plea of insanity, so that it would be strictly marked out who could plead for insanity and under what conditions. If the plea of insanity does become part of the court system, we will have to worry about people abusing the system or manipulating the system. Thereby, the law will have to be very specific with what it defines as a plea of insanity and someone not in the right mental state. On one side, we have Kahler, who believes due to his mental illness, he should be tried not as an equal to those who are in a right state of mind, but under the law of Kansas, Kansas believes that all should be tried equally, whether in or out of a right state of mind. These are the two current opposing sides. The current trial is to determine whether in the state of Kansas you should be able to plead insanity or all should be tried as equals. Currently, the verdict has not yet been reached, yet it was argued on October 7th. The overarching question here is if states have the right to abolish the plea for insanity and if this violates the 8th and 14th Amendment.